Okay, start over again. Welcome, everybody. Ellen and I interviewed Daniel, I think a week ago, about the victim and the saboteur. The reason being that the victim and the saboteur is very apparent in your life because you recognize it, but the victim is a bit more tricky, meaning the victim is so ingrained in your program of thinking and believing that things are being done to you. You forget that you are a cause. You forget that you're powerful. You forget that your beliefs and your personality create your reality. You can be doing loads and loads of work and you can still go in a trance as soon as you're in the victim. And so this is why Ellen and I, when we were teaching victim and saboteur, and really headlines, right? Just alerting people, you know, you don't want to go into your victim and saboteur. We actually thought, wow, this is such a big theme, especially now with the lockdown, and especially now with so many challenges confronting us as a collective, that we need to really take responsibility and educate people, and especially ourselves, about the victim and the saboteur. So those of you who haven't watched that interview, it's a life-changing interview, because actually a lot of people that I know, including friends that, you know, that I've known for many years, who've been doing work for many years, they restarted to realize, you know what, I'm so done with the victim, because actually the reality is you are a victor. In truth, we all are victors. And when you snap out of the trance of the victim into the victor, you start to see yourself and you think, what was I thinking? Did I take some drugs? Or did somebody hypnotize me? Like literally you would make a video of yourself in victim mood, like the messages that you would send as a victim, or the type of conversation you would have with your friends who are really challenging you. Like, wait a minute, this is your victim speaking and you defending yourself. And you would know that if you're not going to heal or transmute this pattern, or be aware of how painful this pattern is, it might stay with you for many years. You might leave many jobs, many relationships, move to many countries, join many political organizations. I don't know what it is that you're going to do, but you're going to take your victim with you. How about a new paradigm? Life is forcing us to change, and we can become the victor. And as a victor, we really embrace new paradigms. And as a victor, you can witness your victim, and you can see all the programs that run in your life, and you will make a firm commitment to wake up. And when you wake up and you start to work with the victor, you will see so many changes in your life. And so we're feeling so extremely excited that Daniel happens to be one of my mastermind buddies. I happened to meet him through one of the amazing introductions of our beautiful friend Klaus Browne. Hello, Klaus, if you're watching this. And then, yeah, because it has been a fated meeting, Daniel. Daniel has prepared a PowerPoint for us about the victim and the saboteur. But maybe, Daniel, just really very quick, explain again how we can recognize the victim, and how we do not recognize the victim, and the same with the saboteur, so that people who are new to this, or maybe watching the Facebook Live, or people who haven't watched the previous interview, they get like a real head start. And then we can go to the slides. I'm just gonna make sure, can you share your slides? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that you can share your screen.
I've only got one slide to share.
Okay.
But really, how do we recognize the victim from the saboteur? So it's really about the emotions, and it's varying scales, but let me talk about the purpose of each. So the purpose of the victim is all about self-esteem. So it's helping you to grow your self-esteem. And self-esteem means loving yourself, self-compassion, self-love for all your imperfections, all of your weaknesses as well as your strengths. So total self-love. So that's the role of the victim. And the energy of the victim, or the emotions of the victim, are more the poor me energy. And actually it's funny because I was watching this trailer yesterday about the men's rights movement, how they're kind of attacking feminism. And it was really, what was really funny about it was like these men were arguing about why they are the victim. And in the process of arguing about why they're the victim, they were victimizing themselves and victimizing the feminist rights movement. So that's an example of like extreme victim. It's like, no, you guys are suffering, but actually I'm suffering even more. So that's like extreme version of the victim. But really it's arguing for your limitations, arguing for where you're weak, arguing for why you, arguing for why me, essentially. So there's many ways we can do that. So in money, it's like, I can't afford it. And then when you step into I can't afford it, you block all of the areas where you could, actions you could take, the new ideas that could come to you. So blocking that potential in the relationships, staying stuck in victimhood, blaming your partner, blaming yourself, blaming your past, your blocks, and not seeing that you can actually grow and move beyond.
Any moment, you just make that decision. You can seek help and it's over.
Yeah, exactly. In your job or in business, it's too hard, I can't do it.
Corporate life is evil.
Yeah, all of those. Or even like academically at school, I'm not good at maths, I'm not good at English, my spelling is terrible, all of these things essentially. So that's the victim. The energy is poor me, and then when it gets,
I cannot do it energy as well. I cannot transcend. I don't have the power or the self-esteem, or I'm born this way, you know. Special
all of those things.
Affliction makes the wound very prominent.
Yeah, and it's not like you're always like, there may be some limitations you have, but it's how you deal with those limitations. If you just accept yourself and love yourself with your limitations, that's not victim. But it's when you're using it as an excuse not to move forward, that's victim. So then the saboteur is the ways in which you stop yourself growing. So if you look at life as, we are here to grow and learn. And it's like, actually, if you look at the metaphor I use for the saboteur, is like a dam of water. So you've got a river, this is your creativity, your energy, your ability to produce things in the world, and then you dam it up. And if you dam it up too much, then you're building all of this creative energy, and this leaks out in other areas, and it causes destruction in some ways. So it could be small destruction where it's just, you disconnect from yourself, you could get depressed, you get all of frustrated. That's kind of subtle ways of sabotaging, which it happens slowly over time. Or it could be really big things like trashing. I think most of us are probably sabotaging ourselves in small ways, but it could be, well, we've seen the riots, destruction, like that, when the anger builds up, that creative energy builds up to such an extent that you basically destroy.
Becomes the shadow side.
Say again?
The shadow side of power gets expressed. Yeah,
exactly. So it could be destroying relationships, destroying like romantic relationships at work. So it's just lashing out and sabotaging. So sabotaging ourselves, so maybe food, addiction, sabotaging our weight, all of these things, essentially. So those are the differences. So sometimes they can overlap. Sometimes it can be hard to distinguish, but the energy of the saboteur is more limitation, anger and frustration that builds up as a result of that, or lethargy and apathy. So those are the two main things to look at. So shall I move on to ladder of consciousness?
Yes. Do you want to share your screen, or?
I will in a sec. So if we look at archetypes, so essentially archetypes are, if we imagine that we're on this earth as a school or a play, and we're like actors, and we've arrived on earth, but we haven't been given parts yet. Like we haven't been given our scripts, we haven't been given our parts. So then we're just kind of ambling around, like wondering what to do in life. So like actors with no script. So the archetypes actually are here to help us, give us things to do. So archetypes are basically giving us our scripts. This is the life that we've chosen before we incarnated, chosen to live in this life. So that's essentially what archetypes, the purpose that archetypes serve. So if you've got the archetype of say someone gives you the script of the queen, or they give you the script of the networker, or they give you the script of the victim, and it's like, these are the parts that you can play. And you're given multiple parts. You don't just have one script, you have lots of different aspects to your personality. So then the victim and the saboteur serve to deal with, show you around power. So the script of the victim is how you overcome being victim to become empowered and become the victor. And the script of the saboteur is how you grow. So what challenges cause you to grow and empower yourself. So that's the role of each archetype. So then there's a growth path. So if we talk about ladders of consciousness, there is a path to growth. So each archetype will grow as it embodies. And what I'm using in terms of growing is I use the chakras. So we could use David Hawkins, but the chakras more thematic. So I'm going to use that, and I'll just talk about that in a sec. Now I'm just sharing my screen. Right, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Beautiful.
So I've got two slides here. One's a bit more complicated than the other, but I'll go between them. So let me simplified version first. Oh, what's going on there? So yeah, so essentially the chakras deal with different levels of consciousness. So when I talk about a scale with the chakras, it's not like you necessarily go about one after the other climbing the ladder in that terms, because so the lower chakras are to deal with life on earth. So the bottom three and the fourth are more about power and expression in the physical realm. And as we go up, it becomes more spiritual, but it doesn't mean that the progression can be different, because for example, you get very high spiritual people who are not very grounded. So they're very strong in the upper chakras, but they're totally disconnected from the lower chakras. So it's each chakra has a different level of consciousness that we need to master. So if I go through each one, and I'll talk about what I mean, and then I'll apply the archetypes to them. So the lower chakra is about security. You don't need to, there's lots of detail here, but if you can see my cursor, I'll talk about that. So lower one's about safety and security. So the root chakras is about being grounded in this physical reality, grounded on earth. So the issues here about being safe, being secure, trusting. So if you have issues in this area, it's about money, home, and job, feeling secure in this area. So I'm going to quickly run through, then I'll talk about each chakra. So second chakra, sorry, I'll talk about the archetype. Second chakra is about food, sex, appetite, it's sensuality, feelings, feeling your feelings. Third chakra is control, power, freedom, expressing your power in the world. Generally, this happens at work and relationships. The heart chakra is about love. It's connection to the higher realms as well. So it's the gateway to the higher realms, higher levels of consciousness. So it's very important. The throat is about speaking, manifesting, expressing oneself. The sixth chakra is about ESP. It's the intellect, but at high levels, it's intuition, it's awareness, it's ESP. Seventh is empathy, universal consciousness. And the eighth, which is not on here, is connection to everything, essentially. So if I talk about the first chakra first, so this is the root chakra. So when we have the victim, issues with the victim, just go here now, first chakra, these are issues around belonging. So it's existential, oops, I don't belong here, I'm not safe in this world. So these are the kind of the issues that we need to heal with around the victim. So the victim is, I don't belong, I'm not safe, it's not safe to be here. So often what this does is causes a disconnect with being present on the earth. So we might find it hard to ground, we might reject physical security, we might not do the things that we need to be secure. So often this happens if people are highly spiritual, they live in the spiritual realms, but they're not really connected to the earth, they don't really see the point in making money or doing the mundane things. So the second chakra, the sacral chakra, is about feelings, sensuality, sex, also money as well at a different aspect. It's more money as it relates to people and connecting to people. So if you have the victim here, it's really feeling vulnerable with regards to those areas. So it can cause us to put on weight in order to protect ourselves as a compensation. Issues around sex, intimacy, issues around food as well. And the third one is the solar plexus. Now here it's about power and control and freedom. So your ability to live in the world. So this is often where people are at and where most people live at. You often find it in work, in relationships. It's the power struggles that one has and fighting for control and freedom. So when we have the victim here, which is unempowered, it's really not feeling that you have power in the world. You don't feel that you can exercise any power. You'll hide away. You won't. So for example, in business, you're not going to put your best self out in business. You'll be very cautious. You won't necessarily have a lot of self-confidence when it comes to business, charging the right fees, having the right value. So here, when we want to shift this, we've got to shift from victim to victor, or someone with a strong victor in this area is very confident in life. So they know they can get whatever they want when they want it, and they'll act accordingly. So you can tell whether you're in victim or victor from your actions. So if your actions are very confident, you're out in the world, you're going and getting things you want, then you're very empowered in this area. So then the heart chakra is about issues around love. So when we see in the victim here, it's feeling vulnerable, feeling that we can't open our hearts, feeling that we'll be hurt if we open our hearts, feeling that we don't deserve love. So worthiness issues live here as well. So thinking we're not worthy of love or worthy of success. So often when we have these worthiness issues in the heart, then we use the solar plexus to make up for it. So we're taking more action than necessary because we're trying to compensate for the feelings of unworthiness. So the heart, once you open the heart, and the heart moves into the empowered victim or the victor stage, then it's really not seeing yourself as vulnerable. So seeing yourself as powerful with all your vulnerabilities. So this is kind of the Browne work about the power of vulnerability, being willing to bear yourself and not feeling ashamed, not feeling guilt, having a free and loving heart. So this is what it is to be empowered here. So we're moving to the throat chakra in the victim here. This is about feeling confident to express oneself. So often, and these are the things about the victim, both the victim and the saboteur, like you only really experience them when you get out of your comfort zone. So if you're on business, when you step out of your comfort zone, this could be public speaking, doing videos. This is where you'll trigger the victim, because then you'll start to see, am I empowered? Do I feel that I'm empowered to speak out? Do I feel that I'm allowed to express my emotions? So, for example, actually, if we take the riots at the moment, like the reason why people are now speaking out is we're realizing we can express what we feel. And actually that's more saboteur, actually I'm straying here, but really it's about, the throat is about, I'll come to the saboteur in a minute. The throat is about expressing what we feel. Then so in the sixth chakra, this is about the intellect, this is about higher levels of insight, this is higher levels of consciousness. So when we have the victim here, then we are prone to dogma. So it could be religious dogma, political dogma, but it's when we allow others and society to control our thoughts and feelings rather than obtaining our own sovereignty of thought. So often it will have lots of beliefs here about, every belief actually could be stuck here. So beliefs like, I'm not good at business, I'm not good at maths, I'm not intellectual, I'm not intelligent, I'm stupid. These areas live here. So when we empower the victim in this area, become the victim, we have our own insights. So rather than necessarily being given by dogma, we actually develop our own insights, our own understanding of the world. We become empowered in ourselves. And then when we get to the seventh chakra, which is at the crown of the head, crown chakra, so then this is about connectedness and unity. So something special happens here, where you see actually that there is no such thing as victim and victor. There's no such thing as weakness and strength. It's like if you look at a hippopotamus and you have that little bird on that lives on the hippopotamus. Like the hippopotamus is really big and powerful, and the bird is small and vulnerable. But at a level of unity consciousness, you just get everyone is just, we're just here. Like some people are strong, some people are weak in certain areas, but you don't have a judgment on that. There is love for all. So that's the level of seventh chakra. And then the eighth chakra is high level integration. And this is just seeing life for what it is, seeing life similar to the seventh chakra, but really seeing life as you have from the smallest ant to the elephant, like everyone is equal. We all have a place in this world. So that's the level, that's how the consciousness shifts between states. Any questions on that level? I'll move on to the saboteur in a second. Cool, no questions. So then basically we see there's a transition in consciousness from basically being on this earth and having it be about us to actually realizing the purpose of why we're here and the purpose of the journey of going from small self to big self and understanding our place in the universe. So then let's move on to the saboteur. It's a similar journey, but different. So the saboteur deals more with destruction. So if you go through to the saboteur in the root chakra then, so the saboteur here, because we're about sabotage, it's sabotaging belonging, sabotaging trust, sabotaging, like disrupting that connection to the earth. So here in extreme, this is where we might see kind of suicide, self-harm. Like, and I think most people, when they're at this level, they're not really conscious why they're sabotaging oneself, but it is that. But most people don't have that level of sabotage. So if we look at a more milder version of saboteur in this chakra, which is about money, home, belonging, trust, it's disrupting that relationship with being here. So maybe a drifter who never feels safe and secure, they never have roots, they always like to kind of roam around and not feel at home anywhere. So that's a form of self-sabotaging, not seeing that you actually belong in this world, the same as everyone else. So then the saboteur in this second house is more rejecting intimacy. And it's a rejection. So here it's more of an aggressive rejection. It's blocking, and it could be due to past trauma, but it's really blocking intimacy and pushing people away. And there's many reasons why it might do that, but it's more, the energy of it is more aggressive. So it's an aggressive block, not allowing anyone to come close.
I do have a question about that, Daniel.
Yeah.
Because, you know, with the attachment theory, you have people who are insecurely attached, and you also have the avoiders.
Yeah.
Would an avoider be more like a victim or more like a saboteur? Because, you know, they're both, like all of these insecurely attached people, attachment styles, they're sabotaging relationship, but one might seem more like a pushing aggressive energy, but the other one, the avoider, also has some kind of sabotage energy, but it might look more like a victim.
It can be both. So if it's a victim, it's more remembering those issues of being victim, it's more running away. The saboteur is a bit more of aggressive, get the hell away from me. Like, it's the underlying emotion that's there. So you can be both. You can avoid, and then if people come too close, it's like, get away from me. Or you can be the victim, people come too close, then you're kind of blaming that person.
Or withdrawing?
Say again?
What about people who withdraw and just, like, you know, ghost people or whatever?
Yeah, let's see about that. Still be both, because that's the behavior, but it's what's the underlying, so I'm just tuning in. It's the underlying emotion of it. Let's see, so with the victim, you would avoid because you feel you're too weak, you can't handle the attention.
Or the resolution, you do not even see an answer.
Yeah, and you'll see yourself as a victim, so it's not even your fault that you're doing.
Yeah, it's the other person's fault.
Yeah. So then if you're in the saboteur, it'll be more aggressive. So it'd be more, get this person away from me, get out of my space, piss off, that kind of energy. And it'd be like, I don't care about you. I just need to get out of here. Or
Thank you.
Saboteur might perceive you as weak. That's more saboteur energy. I think there might have been a question, but I can't see the questions because I'm showing my screen.
Jess says, so it's still not good to be a saboteur. It's never good to be a saboteur or a victim, never ever.
Well, we have the victim, we have the saboteur. It's about transforming it and using it to empower you. So I'll come on to that, how we can transform this, because they don't go away. So everyone has the victim and victor. So it's funny, I was watching Michelle Obama becoming Netflix video. So basically, as you ascend, as you become more powerful, like the victim and victor just change. So for her, the victim, she's married to the president. She doesn't really get to have her own life. That's her victim. It's at a much higher level. So she doesn't get to have fun. She doesn't get to speak and be free because she has so much power. She has to be very careful of what she says. So there's a restriction to her freedom.
Yeah.
So that is the victim as well, but it's just at a different level. So the victim doesn't go away. So she has to resolve being the victim. How can she be herself, express herself, but while having all of this responsibility that I have? So the victim and victor never change. They just change form. The problems change. So as you become more empowered, you'll have different areas in which you can be a victim. So let's say Richard Branson now, like his Virgin Airlines is in danger of going bust. That's a victim problem, but it's at a much higher level. So yeah, it's how is he around this? Is he going to step into the victim, or is he going to be the victor about it? Is he going to be the saboteur, an empowered saboteur? So we'll never shift from victim to victor. It's just that the roles will change and the level that we play it will change. So, but we want to overcome our current level of victim and saboteur so we can move on to the higher levels.
Yes, clear.
Cool.
Thank you.
So that was saboteur in the second. So if we go to saboteur in the third, so then this is more the aggressive dog eat dog world of business. Like get out, like I'm always first.
Fired, up or out, fire.
Yeah.
Like really tough negotiations, like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, in this world, like your competitors offering me this price.
Yeah.
You know, that type of, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very competitive, dog eat dog world. You have to be the best. You have to step on everyone else in order to get ahead. That's saboteur at this level. And here it's, so really when you transform that, it's realizing that you don't need to put so much energy into your power, because ultimately if you live at this level, you're depleting your energy over time because you're always living on aggression and adrenaline. So even though you're sabotaging other people, but ultimately you're sabotaging yourself because then you're just living on stress all of the time. So here, when we shift the saboteur in this area, so actually I didn't talk about shifting the second chakra. So shifting the second chakra saboteur is healing the wounds that cause you to lash out. So understanding why the beliefs which cause you to kind of reject intimacy and reject other people. So tuning into the limiting beliefs there. So that might often involve a lot of trauma, or it may just involve just some limiting beliefs. Generally, the second chakra is quite a difficult one to deal with because it does deal with sexuality and intimacy and those areas. So it's kind of generally kind of therapy is kind of,
and it's often, it's not even our own stuff. We're so into here with ancestral stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And parents and prenatal stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then going back to the third chakra then, so power, control, freedom. So it's realizing that you already have power and you already have control in the third chakra. So one of the beliefs that I come across in the third chakra is basically either the way we don't have any power, we're not allowed to have power, or it's not safe to have power. So these are some of the beliefs, and these undermine the victim and the saboteur. It's just how we express it. So the saboteur may believe they're not allowed to have power, so they need to take it from other people. It's that aggressive dominant, I need to dominate in order to have power. Not realizing that, which is more force than power. Not actually understanding what true power is. So when you heal the saboteur, it's getting a higher appreciation of what power is. So you don't have to force people, you don't have to dominate. You have power in your being, in your speaking. So that's really reclaiming your power in the third chakra. So in the heart chakra, when we have the saboteur, this is about sabotaging love, essentially. So fears of what happens when you get too close, maybe have a belief that love is weakness. So sabotaging love because you don't want to experience weakness. So a lot of men have the saboteur in the heart chakra because they believe that love is weak. And they don't have an understanding of the higher power of love, essentially. So really it's about releasing any of those fears around love. So then when we come into... That
would be an amazing other interview. We could go into the higher power of love and all the misconceptions we have about love. Because a lot of the time we mistake love for our physical, sensory feelings about love. And a lot of them are painful.
Yeah.
Quite traumatic. And to actually really educate ourselves, our intellect, and maybe later on our body, to actually really experience more of the higher power of real, what we would call the true love.
Yeah.
Which is not like the attachment, which is perceived as love, or the trauma that is, memorized as love in a cellular memory.
Yeah, and we have a lot of beliefs around love as well, on what it is to love unconditionally. There's so much stuff actually. There's like loads of beliefs around love here.
That could be your next energy class. I actually had that this morning, that I wanted to message you and say this is one of the topics we need to look at, clearing a lot of the blocks in love. Maybe we could go through the chakras even.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Actually, it's so funny because actually this morning I got up and I cleared lots of beliefs around love.
No, you know what? I was reading a book last night and I was like, I wanted to message you and I was like, no, it's 1 o'clock. Let's not message people at 1 o'clock. But I really woke up this morning and I still thought about it and now we're talking about it. Yeah.
It must have
So
been in sync.
we are, because we're entangled, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Cool. Oh, so I'll get there. So where was we? Love. Did we talk about throat chakra? So throat chakra is then expressing love, expressing power, and how you use your voice. Because our voices and our words have a lot of power, but a lot of us are not present to this. It has the power to hypnotize others. It has the power to uplift others. It has the power to downlift. It has the power to cause, if you can see now with Trump, the power to cause rage, disempowerment, the power to invoke emotions. That's the throat chakra when it's very empowered. Most people don't live at that level of power in the throat chakra. So with the throat chakra here, it's about the saboteur here is either you're sabotaging yourself by what comes out of your mouth. So lack of consciousness where what comes out of your mouth. So you might be saying things, but actually, or you're saying, basically sabotaging yourself. It turns people off of you. So it could be, the victim could be coming out of your mouth, or the saboteur in terms of sabotaging yourself, your reputation, sabotaging your ability to manifest through what you're speaking and influence others. Or it could be sabotaging others through what you say. So for example, if someone is sabotaging people's dreams, so for example, someone's manifesting something and you share it with the wrong person and they'll just say, I don't believe in that. And they'll sabotage.
Dream stealers.
Yes, your dream stealers. So this is also the powers of saboteur, to disempower people. There's even when, so I was having this conversation with someone, like even when you're giving a reading to someone, if you're intuitively giving someone a reading, or you see something that they don't see, it's how you then tell that person. Do you tell them in a way that kind of just totally demolishes their self-esteem and has them buy into beliefs which are not theirs, or do you tell them at a level that empowers them and causes them to move forward? So here,
Absolutely, because it's like sometimes when you read astrology report and you think, oh my God, I'm doomed.
yeah, exactly.
And then you think, oh my God, it's going to be over in this area of my life, right? Whereas actually they're all showing you the ups. They don't tell you the upside. That's why, reading something from an astrology report or just from an astrological website, it's not telling you the whole story, because there's always a challenge. The challenge is always there to help you transform it, and it can make actually you into your biggest triumph.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what I was going to say about that. So just on a more practical level, like an everyday level, it's how, for example, if you're giving an appraisal or feedback to someone, how do you give that feedback? Do you criticize them, or do you empower them? And then also the saboteur here
is very difficult, right? This is
exactly.
such a difficult area, because this is where we take on, very often, because we're very violent in our own communication to ourselves. This is what I've learned from nonviolent communication. And this is like nonviolent communication taught me that we actually have a lot of false premises in how we actually talk to ourselves, how we hear people, and how we filter things. And then a lot of the things that we believe is about love and feedback and helping other people is so skewed towards like actually devaluing ourselves and devaluing others, and also disrupting connection and compassion, that actually we almost have to learn how to communicate even to ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. So then there was another aspect of sabotage. What I was going to say now.
The throat chakra, I believe.
Throat chakra, yeah. It was, I've forgotten what it was now. Never mind. It'll come back to me. Unless I'll come back to it if it pops up. So then on the 6th level of sabotage, this is when essentially the sixth chakra is about being woke, essentially. Seeing the higher truths, seeing what's behind the veil. So it's, for example, with a lot of the conspiracy theories were sixth chakra experiences, because who knows actually what's true, but it's that kind of shifting those thoughts where people start to see the world totally differently and they become paranoid. So the saboteur at this level could be a conspiracy theorist, like really creating beliefs in others that destroy their, their view of the world in a destructive way. So you can
destroy the sovereignty, I feel.
Yeah,
a lot of the conspiracy theories are here to make you feel disempowered.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying they're not true, but I am saying a lot of conspiracy theories who are here to wake up people, they actually bring more fear around than empower people.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel disempowered watching a conspiracy theorist, and is a very good conspiracy theorist when they actually empower you and say, this doesn't mean that you don't have power and that you're a victim and that other people have more control over you than not. It's only a few teachers out there that actually really say, you know, the truth is being revealed and still you have power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's definitely one. Oh, actually, I remember what I was going to talk about in the throat chakra is actually about speaking truth. So because often speaking truth can actually be quite tricky, and often people withhold the truth, either their own truth or the truth in general. So when the saboteur is empowered here, it's actually the ability to give truth, and sometimes that truth is harsh, but it's necessary to hear it. So when you have the saboteur empowered in the throat chakra, you're not afraid to give truth, and that truth might hurt, it might cause damage, it might offend people, but it's really not being afraid to give it, essentially, not depowering yourself by withholding truth. So that's a throat chakra empowered saboteur. So then that also relates to the sixth chakra, is seeing truth and not being afraid to see the truth. So saboteur here could be basically creating belief systems that don't work. So this is often religion as well, or extreme what I call staunch atheists or staunch Christians, or actually whatever religion. But when you're so righteous about your religion, you have a thought about the impact it has on others, that's also a form of self-sabotage as well. So then being empowered in this area is understanding your own truth, being willing to open up to other truths, and really being grounded in your sovereignty of thought and thinking.
But the most important thing that I learned about truth is actually in a book about archetypes. Carol Pearson.
Yeah.
Carol Pearson's book about archetypes. And actually it's she was talking about the evolution of all the different archetypes. And I think at one point you can become the sage.
Yeah.
And the sage knows that all truths are subjective.
Yeah.
And that the objective truth is paradoxical. I mean, really, when I read that and I was really young, it blew my mind, because I felt there's so much truth in here. Because how do we know what truth is?
Yeah.
Because truth, like, you know, things like yin and yang and shadow, you know, polarity, duality, everybody has their own truth. But who are we to say, this is my truth and this is why I'm going to kill you?
Yeah.
But this is my truth and this is why, you know, this is not real what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because for somebody who's, let's say somebody with sixth sense, like, you know, somebody who sees, like, I don't know, the other dimensions, you know, they might not be, they're telling their truth. And somebody who has never had, let's say, never been a victim, they might say, oh no, the world is full of justice. Whereas somebody who's always been perpetrated on, they might feel, no, the world is dangerous. Yeah. So from that perspective, speaking your truth, we have to actually be so, it's actually really sad that in our society, we aren't having these conversations even with children, to actually teach them to listen to each other without trying to control each other. Like, no, this is my truth. No, this is my truth. You know, this is really where I think a lot of us are, you know, because of the way that our education system is still reflecting a lot of our lack of awareness of actually emotional intelligence skills, the necessity for teaching these emotional intelligence skills. That's why we're so screwed up nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's a big opportunity for us, because we've become seekers.
Yeah.
Like relentless seekers who also want to teach this and who also want to, you know, promote this. And a lot more people are hurting so much. They say, you know what, I'm going to study. Even if this is not taught by my schools,
yeah,
and by the people I know, I'm going to look for it. And that's why we need to create these webinars. And really be creative of how much need there is out there for all of this knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Cool. So let's move on. So I'm going to go to the seventh chakra. So seventh chakra is unity consciousness. So here, this is about understanding the power of destruction. So when you have the saboteur here, it's really understanding that there is no right or wrong. Like energy can be used for destruction and creation, and it does, and it's fine. Like there's no rightness or wrongness about that. So if I'm looking at, for example, if I'm looking at the riots and the protests at the seventh level from the seventh level, like there's no right or wrong about it. It's just, this is a saboteur being expressed, and I don't have any judgment around it. It just is what it is, and I can understand it from an archetypal perspective. I understand the role that it plays. So that's seventh level consciousness. It's understanding that life is about destruction and creation, and we have a choice in how we use that. We have a greater understanding. There's no judgment, because there's just acceptance of unity and the path of the saboteur. So then when we get to the eighth chakra, it's a higher level of the seventh, but it's understanding the role that destruction plays. It's that universal, so you know, which is it? I've forgotten which. As in Hinduism, you have the gods of creation, the god of destruction. I can't remember what their names are now. I have to look it up. But it's that level of consciousness, understanding that these are parts of these are forces of life, and having that level of consciousness around it. Yeah, so that's the path of. So then the path of the saboteur is really about understanding power, and understanding power to create and the power to destroy, and how we use that effectively. So the more we move up that scale and we understand and we integrate it, it's realizing that destruction plays a part in our lives and creation plays a part in our lives. So often when the saboteur expresses itself in life, sometimes it might destroy a relationship, or it might destroy a job, like it might sabotage a job. And at the time it sounds really bad. Like, oh no, we've lost that job, we've lost that income, our business was disrupted. But then a few years later, when we look back, from a different perspective, we realize actually that needed to be destroyed in order for something new to arise. So that's when you have a higher level of consciousness with the saboteur. And obviously at the time it may not sound pleasant, but when you look back, you can see how that served a higher purpose. There's often like when we're doing Dr. Joe, for example, when you rise to a high level of consciousness and then your life gets into chaos and things shift and things break down, and you're like, oh my God, things are breaking down, what's going on? And at the time, it doesn't seem pleasant, but then once it's resolved, you realize that destruction needed to happen, that sabotage needed to come in because there was a reason for it. So that's the high level of consciousness.
Dr. Joe says that when we're creating something, everything that is not a vibrational match must fall away.
Yeah.
But at that time, we're not ready for it. We're just trying to hold on to it because we think, no, I want this relationship, I want this job, I want this home, I want this goal. But actually, because your creation is probably, for whatever reason, you have to become a different consciousness. So whatever is not going to grow with you has to be torn away. And it's very painful, very destructive. But, either I think, either those things are going to morph into a better version, or they are going to fall away. And then something better will take its place.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want to talk let's cover a few beliefs at certain levels. So just go through, at random, I'll just call beliefs. So if you have beliefs at the level of throat chakra, these are the beliefs around it's okay to express my emotions. It's okay to express myself. I do have power in my speaking. So the beliefs that we're going to work on in the course actually is around understanding that you do have power to express yourself, that your words do have power. It's okay to express yourself. So that's what we're going to work on in this, all the areas around self-expression. So the heart chakra, we're going to look at areas around love and understanding that vulnerability, and it's okay to be vulnerable. We're not going to cover every belief around love because that's a separate course, but.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I can imagine in this area, just about the heart and the throat, I think even if we just look at, for instance, men and women, there's such a big, huge cultural divide there.
Yeah.
Not culture, I'm not saying, is it sex divide or like gender divide?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I know a lot of men that, you know, even it's like, because I've been in the Mankind Project, I was in the women's organization,
Oh, wow.
Women Within in the UK.
Mm.
And then we did co-ed workshops with the men, and men have been taught to shut up, to
Yeah.
be a big boy. And, you know, I've attended those workshops where I would listen to the men and them crying their hearts out and wanting to be held, because that was never, ever expressed.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, working with a theta healer, I mean, I would assume that this is not like, you know, there must be probably more work needs to be done, maybe on an individual level, apart from, you know, maybe a group clearing, which is a really good beginning, because you go through all the chakras, you go through the archetypes. But then later on, if something comes up, I would say this might be something where people need to maybe look more at the old beliefs that were actually disempowering the masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because the heart chakra levels, they do tend to be individual because they're based on your own circumstances, based on your family, and everyone's circumstances are different. So we all have slightly different beliefs, and the origin of those beliefs are different as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you'll get to a certain level, but then there'll be deeper levels and deeper nuances which are appropriate to each person.
Yes.
One needs to deal with. Yeah, actually, so it's funny because actually this morning I was looking at the around love. I was kind of, because I think what is taught about love is very feminine. So talking about the masculine, so there was a lot of me not rejecting, but it was like I didn't have a masculine expression, understanding of the masculine expression of love, because we're not taught it. So I actually had to download that for myself, like what is the masculine expression of love.
Alison Armstrong's work might be very indicative, or, you know, I know that, yeah, that's a bit of a gap in my knowledge there, but I know that Alison Armstrong has done empirical research on this topic. David Data comes more from a spiritual side.
Oh yeah, I've read
of but that you know, he seems to have a really spiritual view of love, but then also I think when we look at maybe I think if we look at the some of the ways that the masculine is expressed, a lot of the love that the masculine provides is in service and in protecting. So it's not about speaking it. It's more about duty, and it's more about honor. And that's what I remember from the literature that I read. But definitely this would be a worthwhile. I'm going to think about who I can connect you with that is really in that world, so that you can do your exploration, because this is a very important topic.
Yeah, I think so. I think actually, so what I'm noticing is, I think the saboteur, when it comes to love, the saboteur is more in the men, and the victim is more with the women. But not always, but that's the general tendency when it comes to love. Cool. I think so. That's it for me in terms of. Oh, sorry. There's a few other beliefs. So we'll talk about throat chakra, heart chakra. So third chakra is really about power, like allowing yourself to have power and realizing that you do have power. Because often there are beliefs that we're taught, and they'll be different from gender as well. So women are not taught they're allowed to have power, and men might be taught that they have too much power and they need to rein that power in. Again, there is a gender difference, but it's not strictly the same, because often it can swap. So, but I'm just talking anecdotally so far. But yeah, so with power, it's like some people believe they have too much power and they need to rein it in, and they think they can't control it. Or some people have it that they're not allowed to have power. So the victim and saboteur here are really about balancing that and seeing the truth about power. And then again, the second chakra is being safe and secure in who we are as a person in our body. And then the root chakra is being safe and secure on this earth and belonging on this earth. So these are beliefs around I don't belong. It's interesting because I realized the other day, a couple of weeks ago, So I do a lot of meditation. I'm quite spiritual. And when I was doing healings, I realized I never grounded myself. I didn't even think it was important or necessary, because I was just like, oh, just go and connect to the divine, do a healing, and it's done. And then I realized I had all these, but I always had not picked up lots of emotions, and even though I cleared it, they didn't go anywhere. So I realized I needed to ground myself when I was studying. And once I started grounding, I realized I found it difficult to ground. And then what was there was, I don't belong in this country. So this was the belief that was there underneath it, and that belief was blocking me in actually rooting and grounding myself to living in England. But actually it was, I don't belong in this country, but it's actually, I don't really belong anywhere, because my soul just sees myself as a global citizen. So why belong anywhere?
I don't even like this planet, to be honest. Like people, and a lot of people don't understand me because they really believe this is the only place.
Yeah, actually I have clients who have had past lives in different planets, and they don't believe they belong in this planet, because actually a lot of people do, because they see all of the what's the word, all of the harshness of life.
Yeah, this is a very difficult planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they believe that they don't belong here because life is so harsh. And this is from a soul level. Like, it's not, you're not going to notice on the intellectual level, but the soul will remember what it was like not being incarnated in a body. The soul will remember how other lives are better, or how other planets or other dimensions were better. So then when you come to Earth, it's just like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. So your soul will have, so some people, their soul will feel this, so it stops them connecting and really being at home in this life, in this lifetime, essentially, on this Earth.
I think Dolores Cannon was writing about it, all the waves of volunteers that came to the Earth. The first wave that came to actually raise the vibration of Earth, they really had a hard time.
Yeah.
And then the second wave, which were their children, they had an easier time. And then I think the third wave is already arrived already. Oh, wow. But I think, you know, there's a video about it, the 3 waves of volunteers of Dolores Cannon. Oh, sure. And, but actually, I remember when I was doing my first energy healing class in Amsterdam with a scientist. She's a scientist, and she basically healed herself with healing. And then she started studying Barbara Brennan. And then she did a PhD in psychoneuroimmunology. And I loved her because she was so scientific, just like Dr. Joe. That was before I knew Dr. Joe. She did like all the science, but also all the healing. And she basically, when she taught us the Barbara Brennan type of, like a really simple class of 12 weeks, the Barbara Brennan energy centers, the first time I think I went to 7, I just, like, the whole class started crying because that felt like home. And all of us, everybody in that course was like, wow, that's the first time I really felt I belonged. And everybody was like, oh, this Earth is a bit, like, we weren't unhappy or something, but we didn't feel like, it didn't feel like home. It felt like, wow, you know, we're here, we have to deal with this. Yeah. Yeah. And I still went, so because every time we have to ground ourselves before healing using that specific technique. And whenever we go to the 7, it feels like, it's just tears from happiness, which is bizarre, right? Because we are here. This is also home, and I'm telling myself now, ground yourself, make it your home, create a home here. Yeah, absolutely. Because we don't have that much time here. We'll go back anyway. Yes. Yeah. Cool. So does that answer? Anyone have any questions from that? So we kind of covered some practical and some spiritual applications of the victim and saboteur. And I think it's important to cover both, because sometimes we'll think that the issue is a practical level, but it's actually a spiritual, like, existential issue. But we can't see it from that lens. So often we'll have this problem, we think we're trying to deal with it in the practical, and the actual solution is actually in the spiritual. I just want to remind people that, you know, what really spoke to me was that you said we can have all these other archetypes like queen, king, magician, you know, like the Midas, like super entrepreneurial, like you know, inventor, blah, blah, blah. But unless you solve and heal these 2 survival archetypes, victim and saboteur, you cannot even actually empower these other archetypes, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Because say you have the queen, like, if the queen is empowered so the queen is, the ultimate role of the queen is to connect the divine to the people. So the queen holds the archetype of leadership for all people. And but if you're battling with the victim and saboteur, you can't even, it's hard to sustain that level of consciousness, because you're always going to fall back into the victim or fall back into saboteur. So it's like you need to be at a certain rung of the ladder before you can step into it. It's like, so that's in the spiritual level, but even just a practical, say you are the queen or the king archetype, for example, and you have no money. You're a broke king or broke queen. You don't feel empowered because you don't have.
But you're resentful of successful people.
Exactly, because you're like, I should be there because I'm the king and queen, but you can't because you don't have the money, essentially. So that's one view. But then when your survival archetypes are empowered, the victim and saboteur, you realize actually you're more powerful than money. Money is just an object. Actually, the power lies within you. So then that
money is just another expression of how much you are able to allow it in through your expression of your value and your skills. Yeah,
exactly. But then when your victim is empowered, you have a higher level of self-esteem. It doesn't matter how much money you have, because it's like, you know that you can go and get it when you need it. It's like if you have a billionaire, if Richard Branson became broke overnight, he's not going to be like, oh my God, I have no money. He'll get out there and make it back.
Yeah, he'll have new ideas about new types of travel companies.
And it's because his level of self-esteem in regards to money is so high that he doesn't see himself as a victim if he has no money, for example. He sees himself
and speaking for myself, like the victim in my fourth house, which is all about emotions and, you know, the negative stuff that I've learned from my ancestors about love and relationships and home. I really feel now that, because I've been working on it for a few weeks now, because of the retrograde, I was forced to, and I really committed to doing it. I really felt in the beginning, I could not see myself transcending these really heavy emotions of unworthiness, of unlovability, or, I'm always going to be rejected, abandoned, blah, 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 betrayed, because that was all ancestral memory or whatever was going on with me. And then as soon as I started to doing the work, right now, I'm tipping over. It's like I'm feeling, it actually doesn't matter what people do. They can abandon you, they can betray you, they can cheat on you, and you still have so much self-esteem that you know it's not about you.
But then
their loss, you know.
But that's a belief about abandonment and betrayal, because that is the victim. Like when you get to the high level, you don't understand there is no such thing as abandonment and betrayal. So
you basically, the same belief is basically then gets transformed as a belief system at a lower level, but it's not the truth. It's just the way people see it when they're at the victim level. When they become the victor, they just think, well, how would you explain it if people have these belief systems and they go into victor?
It's a bit big. Let's make it specific. So, for example, in what you're talking about, so believing that there's such thing as abandonment and betrayal is a certain level of victim, is true at a certain level of victim, but in the higher level, say if you went to send it to, so let's say that would be like the heart chakra level. If you send it to the 7th level, if you looked at it from the 7th and 8th level, or even the 6th, you'd see there's no such thing as abandonment. It's just a belief system.
You mean it's neutral? The event is neutral?
It's just someone was there and now they're not there. Someone was loving you and now they stopped loving you. But the love just shifted form, it shifted somewhere else. The love was always there. You were always connected to the divine. If someone abandons, let's see, hang on, there's something coming here, let's tune in. So true abandonment actually comes from the belief that God has abandoned us. That's the true abandonment. So anything else, I'm just channeling this. So every experience of abandonment with someone else is just a reflection of the abandonment that we believe that God has abandoned us. And this is that. So and it's funny because I just downloaded this morning, so it's now coming back. So it came for a reason, because I cleared this for myself. But you can see in certain religions that there is the belief that God has abandoned us.
Yeah.
Like Catholicism, we're bad, God has abandoned us, and we have to spend our whole life in a world where God has abandoned us. So that's the ultimate abandonment, essentially. So when we can get that God hasn't abandoned us, we were one with Source, and then we came down to earth. So we separated from Source out of choice. It's like leaving your parents' home and going on a trip. That's all we've done. That's the higher truth. Then you can see there's no such thing as abandonment, because God is already here. He hasn't abandoned us. So no one else can abandon us either. Does that make sense?
Yes. But at a very high level, but it's
it's a high level.
Yeah, Carol Pearson, her book.
That. So I had this came up for me this morning. So I'm always doing my belief clearing, and one of the beliefs that I had, this was around love and the heart chakra. It's funny. So I'll share this. It may not be related, but it was like what I saw for myself is, like I was connecting to my meditation, connected to the vibration of love, and then I couldn't stay there, and then the reason why I couldn't stay there is I had all these beliefs about, oh, you have to be at unconditional love all the time. Like you have to, like, it's wrong if you disconnect from unconditional love. You must feel unconditional love all of the time. We're always supposed to be pure love and light at all times. We should be high vibrations all the time. So these are beliefs around love. It's like, no, you don't have to be. And then there was another belief. It was like, and it's so weird because it doesn't make sense on an intellectual level. But it was like I was hiding from God because I wasn't able to sustain being an unconditional love all of the time. And then as I dug deeper, it's like, it was almost like if God doesn't find out that I'm not at unconditional love all of the time, then he'll be disappointed and abandon me. And then I dug even deeper, and it's like, oh, I'm abandoned by God. I was like, why am I abandoned by God? We are all abandoned by God. This comes from religion. It's a very complicated stack of beliefs. They don't all make sense at intellectual level, but when you can clear out that belief at the subconscious level, then it all shifts essentially. And this is the thing with belief clearing. It may not make sense at an intellectual level, but when you clear it at the unconscious level, it frees up so much. So now I've freed that up. It's like I've released the pressure of having to be an unconditional love all the time. Because I had this expectation, because we have these idols of Jesus and Buddha who we believe were always, they walked on water, they were always at unconditional love all of the time. They never had any problems, they were never angry, they never descended into lower levels of consciousness. They were just purely
over idealized, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we're comparing ourselves with those beings. Like in some level we believe that we should be like that. And it's
not on this earth plane. This earth plane, it's pretty difficult to be like that all the time.
Yeah. But it's these beliefs which then cause these feelings of abandon, betrayal, because we have this almost what's the word, perfectionism. We're comparing ourselves to the divine perfection, but not realizing that everything is divine.
And if we and the thing is like even maybe the dark side is divine, right? The dark side has an expression of some kind of play that we're in or whatever. So this is why like there are some teachers, for instance, that are saying that the coronavirus and this whole crisis was part of the divine plan, and other people would say no, that's not true because the divine would never do that to us. Well, those are people who really tend to really they're always in the duality. They're always saying God is only good, and then there's evil that's bad. But actually, what if God is everything? What if God just is?
Yeah.
And there is, and everything is part of the divine plan. And not only that, we are part of the divine. So we can also determine the outcome. So why would you determine an outcome where God has abandoned you? Because that means you abandon yourself. And then you create a worldview where other people abandon you. So everything comes back to our own filters.
Yeah. And also it's because we believe that God has abandoned us is actually what causes our beliefs of victimhood in the first place. If we didn't believe that God didn't abandon us, then we wouldn't Because if we believe that God abandons us, then we feel guilty, we feel shame, we feel that we're not good enough. It triggers all of these other beliefs. Essentially, so many other beliefs are underneath. The fundamental thing underneath that is a belief that God has abandoned us. And whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't matter, because the religious program is so extensive that you can be totally atheist, but the religious program is still there. So when I work with people, for example, I work with people who don't believe in God at all, which is fine. Like, there's no judgment on that at all, because everyone finds their own expression of the divine. But I test the belief that God hates me. So I did this one around, especially with gay men. I test, or anyone who's gay, I test the belief that God hates me. And they say, I don't believe in God. Then I test them, and it's like, yes, God hates me. And they're like, oh, but I don't believe in God, but I still have this belief.
That I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually once did a healing on a gay man. This was in Boston, and his boyfriend was one of my tenants in Rotterdam. When I went to Boston, he said he was at Harvard. It was like they were both graduates from Harvard, and he said, I really feel that you have to do a healing on my boyfriend. And his boyfriend was not spiritual. His boyfriend did not believe in past lives. And what happened during that healing, I was doing this, I was trained in the Browne healing by one of the Browne teachers, and then I trained with Dean Ramsden in his Dragon Pearl school. So I actually employed two healing techniques, but I don't know what happened there. When I was doing the healing on this man who did not believe in past lives, actually what happened was that I kept getting a year in my head, and I kept getting a Greek Orthodox priest. It kept showing up in my mind's eye. And this guy wasn't Greek or whatever. He's like an American guy. And I was like, I just don't know why, but I keep getting this Greek Orthodox priest in front of me and this year. And he was lying there and he was like, I don't believe in past lives, but if I believed in past lives, I would be a Greek Orthodox priest. And I was like, I keep getting this year. And anyways, what happened during the healing was that I don't know what I did, but I'm not sure I was the only one in the room, because his body started moving, like twitching, and he felt like energy was being pulled out of him. There's a lot of guilt about being gay. And then after the healing, we were so like, what? Like, you believe that you are Greek Orthodox priest? And we literally went onto the web and we went on to look for Greek Orthodox Church and that specific year. And it said that at that specific time, there was a huge shift between the different churches. And that's how they started breaking down. Like all these different churches started forming their own groups. Yeah. And he was, well, we think he was alive there, but he doesn't believe in past lives. Oh wow. But he did have guilt. Yeah. About being gay. Yeah. And he was a priest that probably, we don't know. But that was so interesting. So you don't have to believe in anything, but you might, somewhere in you might remember. Yeah. Whether it's a past life or parallel life, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just sharing this because there's a lot of people that don't believe in past lives. And we as healers, we've worked with a lot of stuff, and a lot of things come up. People, even who don't believe in past lives. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Daniel, can I ask you a practical question? Yeah. For the people listening, so we went through the victim and saboteur and all these things. Do you have a suggestion for people to sort of like questions or ways they could sort of go through each of the energy centers and figure out, oh, this is where I'm kind of in the saboteur victim, and maybe in, I don't know if you have any suggestions for people to sort of figure out, oh, this is what I'm doing or how I'm sabotaging or being the victim.
Well, we're going to cover this in our course.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I don't have any suggestions right now. Let me just see if we can come up with some at the moment. So I would say, let's do a little scale rating. So let's say what level, so I'll just go through each chakra and I'll just take one from each. So at the level of the root chakra, so this is about belonging. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong do you feel that you belong in your country, in your city, where you live? What's your level of belonging? How much do you believe in the one, on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being I belong totally, completely, 1 I don't belong here. So let's do a few. So root chakra is the main one, heart chakra, and solar plexus. So I'm creating this in the spur of the moment. So let's say solar plexus. In terms of 1 to 10, how powerful do you believe that you are in the world? How confident are you that you can express yourself? You can get what you want in life through 3D actions. So not necessarily manifesting, but how confident do you feel that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the highest. Then the heart chakra, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel in being able to love without fear of being hurt or betrayal? And then what is the primary emotion connected to each one? So if we go to the root chakra, in terms of belonging, you've got your scale of 1 to 10. When you think about your level of belonging, do you feel angry about it or sad about it? So sad will be more victim, angry will be more saboteur. And if you don't have an issue around that, then that's fine. And that's not an issue for you. So then the solar plexus, in terms of your ability to express power, you've got your rating of 1 to 10. So what's the primary emotion? Do you believe that you have to, do you believe you have no power, which is more victim, or do you believe that you have to control your power? It's more saboteur. And what's the emotion around it? Do you feel weak, or do you feel that you have too much energy, too much power in this area? So if you feel you've got too much power, that's more saboteur. If you feel you don't have enough power, that's going to be more likely to be victim. I think there's some chat, but I can't read the chat, so you guys will have to.
I'm just summarizing what you're asking so that people can read it, because some people are visual.
Because that was solar plexus. So what's the primary emotion there? Is it anger? Is it aggressive or is it passive? If it's passive, you're more likely to be in the victim. If it's aggressive, you're more likely to be in the saboteur. If it's passive aggressive, that's the saboteur as well. So in the heart chakra, what's your feeling around your heart? And how strongly do you believe that you're open and willing to receive love without the fear of betrayal, without the fear of being hurt? So if there's a lot of defensiveness, a lot of anger around this, like there's a real sense you've got to protect yourself. This is going to be the saboteur. If you've just got all your shutters up and the heart's closed, you're not allowing anyone in, that's more victim. Because the victim brings up the barriers, the saboteur goes on the attack, on the offensive. That's how you know. So those are the main 3 areas. So root chakra, solar plexus chakra, heart chakra. And then, so we'll deal at those levels. In the course, we'll go to the other levels, like the throat chakra. But those are the main levels that people deal with.
Second chakra is also a landmine.
Yes, that's just too big for me to deal with right now. This is all the stuff which people don't like to talk about. So
jealousy, anger, needs not being met, addictions. Yeah. And the thing is, I really want us to know that this is not going to depress us all, because actually, once I find theta healing quite like a tearless technique, like a non-cathartic technique to deal with your wounding. Because there's a lot of other techniques where you talk about it, you analyze it, you know, there's a lot of like talking and not a lot of like, whereas with theta healing, you find a belief and then you clear it and then you download the right belief, which I think is I would say there's not a lot of you know, a lot of the crying and a lot of that type of stuff coming up, because we don't always need to be like doing the cathartic work. You know, sometimes there's a place for it, but I think for most people, we've done a lot of work for so many years. We don't really want that anymore. What do you feel, Daniel?
Yeah, it's just releasing the beliefs. Like basically I release the belief and then I release the trauma. And generally there's a moment of release. So it's generally like 5 to 10 seconds, it just goes and then you're fine. But yeah, you don't need to go through the catharsis. What's important really is just to understand why the belief was there, how it impacted your life, and then what's now available now that the belief is gone.
Yeah, and also Dr. Joel, sometimes, you know, he has people standing on the testimonials talking about, I was working on something and I'm not even sure what it was. And then Dr. Joel said, it wasn't important. Yeah. It wasn't important where it came from, you know, that all that archaeological digging into, you know, oh, was it my soul, which past life, you know, my ancestors? No, that's like archaeological digging. We want to move forward to the future. There's a lot happening in the now that we need to resolve as a species. We don't need to go back. You know, Abraham Hicks talks a lot about it. You know, when you listen to the Abraham Hicks videos about trauma, Abraham Hicks says, you know, if you're a therapist, you're not going to drag them back to the past. You want to drag them forward. Yeah. You want to remind them of their power, not of their wound.
Yeah. I think people just like the story of it. That they
can I think it's an addiction. I think it's an addiction. Yeah. It gets so much significance about talking about the wound.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and really, I think, you know, the people that are going to come to the course or the clearing, you know, they're just done with it. They're like, oh, get it over with.
Yeah. And actually, so when we did the wealth clearing, there's some powerful beings come into the room. Like I just sensed them. They came into space, and it was just like, look, we just want you to know that you're essentially it was the planets, the gods, like Mars, Jupiter, and they just said, look, you guys are gods. You're as powerful as we are. We just want you to remind you of that, and that's essentially the consciousness we need to know. We're divine beings. We're part of the divine. We are powerful. We've just forgotten, and that's essentially the whole part of clearing. It's just to remind us actually that we are powerful. And we're just in a different body, we're just in a different form, but the power expresses itself slightly differently, but we are still divine beings. It's part of divine.
Can I ask a question? I somehow pushed a button and everything disappeared, so I only see a small screen. I have 3 questions. Do I need to know if I'm a victim or a saboteur in order to clear it? And also where it sits, in which chakra? So because we were just talking about digging, do I need to know all of this or can I just clear it?
You don't need to know. You just need to know what the belief is, what the block is, and then you can clear it.
And what is the difference between a group clearing and an individual clearing?
So the group clearing is going to be, it's going to be general. So we're not going to dig deeply. So it will be a shallow clearing. So there may be stuff which is deeper and it requires more one-on-one work. Because sometimes there'll be a belief and you want to clear it, but you can't because there's still more to go. There's still more attachment to that belief. So
what does well, sorry, my screen disappeared now completely. I don't see anything, but I hear you. So what does, if I do the group clearing, is this just a pre-work to an individual cleaning, or if I want to, is it more effective to do an individual session?
It's both. So people generally, they do the group one, and then for something that is stuck, like a persistent belief that won't leave, then they'll have an individual clearing. So, because often there's different levels of beliefs. Some people have beliefs which are just, they're not a big deal. You just clear them, they go, there's no attachment, there's no attachment to any life experience. So, for example, with certain religious beliefs, these beliefs were just, or pendulums, beliefs in the group consciousness. These are just beliefs that we've had in the group consciousness we've been programmed, we just need to release that program. You clear it like that, and that's what happens in the group clearing, group beliefs. You just clear it. There's no attachment to that belief. So the belief that, I'll give you an example, money is the root of all evil. This is just a religious belief. If we have it, we just need to clear it. There's nothing to dig deep into that. But for certain situations, it may be you had a past life and you were a priest in a past life and you really, really believe that money is the root of all evil. So then we have to go to an individual session because it's so rooted in your belief system that it's not going to clear just like that.
Yes, I understand, but at what point do I know that? Like, if I, for example, go for the group clearing, at what point do I know if this is or has been sufficient, or if I need to dig deeper and do an individual class? And if I do an individual class, wouldn't that be more effective than doing a group clearing first? Now, besides, of course, the financial investment, because it's a difference.
Yeah, so when I tend to do individual clearings, it's for a specific issue. So we're not working on the belief of itself. The belief will come up as we're doing the work. So on the individual levels, I have this issue around money. I've done all this clearing, but I can't seem to shift this belief. So then we'll dig. We're not looking at level belief. We're looking at what is the real issue, and then we'll dig to resolve the issue in of itself. So that's an individual. That'll be on the individual level. On the group level, we're clearing beliefs which everyone seems to have, and it's basically just freeing up layers of group beliefs that impact us and stop us moving forward. But they're very light ones. So if in the group clearing, and it's more cost effective to do group clearing, because often if we did an individual clearing, like for example, I've got a whole loads of beliefs. If we did an individual clearing, they'll go so quickly. There's no point in spending time doing a one-to-one, because you could just do it as a group. It's just more efficient, because it will take the same amount of time to do it for you in a group level and an individual level, because there's no charge, there's no attachment to that belief. But if we'll put it this way. So if in a group level, we'll do the clearings and we'll test to see if that belief has been released. And then we might work with one or two people where the belief is a bit more persistent. And then we'll release that. If we don't release that, then I would recommend an individual, because that's quite ingrained and we'll have to do more work. We might need to spend 20, 30 minutes on that. So then I'd recommend doing an individual session, or if you have time, we'll do it at the end of the session. But that's a circumstance where you'd want to go and do an individual session. But for a lot of these beliefs, they're just beliefs that we just all have. It's quite easy to remove them at a group level. You could do it on an individual level, but there's not much point in doing that, because males just do it when in the group. And then you can target specific things, specific issues that come up for you in an individual session. So it's more efficient. Like, you'll do the 4 sessions at the group level. There's one thing you can, rather than having 4 individual sessions, those 4 individual group beliefs can be released in that individual sessions, and you might need 1 or 2 individual sessions to target one specific thing. So it's just more efficient in that way.
So basically people are asking, how do I know that the belief shifted? The belief shifted once you do the testing afterwards. Again. Yes, so you test first, muscle testing, whether you have a certain belief, and then afterwards after the clearing, you test it again, and after the downloading, I think you could test again.
Absolutely.
So, and what I can say is, from the group clearings that I received, I'm in a course with Boyan and Nicole, and they really are just doing group level beliefs, but they are such like generic beliefs that all of us have them. So whether you do it individual or whether you do it with a group, it doesn't really matter. And what I know from the money clearing stuff that I did with Daniel is we did it with a group, and all the beliefs just sounded like everybody could believe it, but it's all crap. It's all like limiting beliefs that everybody believes. And then you hope like, oh, I hope my subconscious doesn't believe that, because you can tell yourself in your conscious mind, I don't believe that, but your subconscious mind might believe it. And that is where it's tricky. Because, you know, just like with love, I know a lot about love. I know everything about every book. I've done Jungian analysis, dream analysis, healing, whatever, meditations. But my subconscious mind was still rooted and all of these limiting beliefs about love and my self-identity. So this is where I really believe any type of work where you actually have to dig deeper, you have to go to the subconscious mind, because we don't know our subconscious mind. We really don't have a clue, you know, and it can be very, very subtle. And even on the group clearing, you can have beliefs that you think, of course I don't believe that, but you haven't tested it. And if you haven't tested it, you don't know what is going on. And that's why probably you're having a lot of incongruence in some of the goals that you think you want, but your subconscious mind doesn't agree with it because your subconscious mind is holding you back. There's somebody asking, you don't need to know what the beliefs are, because actually Daniel will channel it for us. And I think also in Theta Healing, they have a lot of these belief charts, but I think Daniel is very intuitive. So every Theta Healer you go to will come up with a different list of beliefs because they're really tuning in. And I really think Daniel is really talented in this. This is where you can actually assess whether a Theta Healer is right for you, because I love the style of Daniel because he's so much more than just a Theta Healer. He's done work for many, many years. Somebody's asking, what if you have the wounded healer archetype? Don't you need to understand the wound? I think there's a difference between understanding the wound and actually living out the wound and having to be attached to the wound. Because I think a lot of healers, we have the wounded healer archetype that is part of our journey, but are you going to insist and drag that identity with you for the rest of your life? That's the thing.
Also, the wounded healer archetype is a separate archetype. That's totally different, because there's a journey that comes with the wounded healer archetype. So that's a totally different archetype, and it's a whole set of beliefs to clear through. No, actually, it's not beliefs to clear through. It's just a different trajectory, and there's a value in having the wounded healer archetype, because your wounds then enable you to heal others. So if you've got the wounded healer archetype, I would research about the wounded healer archetype. So I think that's in Greek myths, the healer.
Chiron.
Chiron.
But it's different about understanding the wound than actually identifying with the wound, because the more work I do, the more that I understand that you know, it's just like with the archetypes. The wounded healer expressed on different levels of the scales consciousness of David Hawkins, or the chakras would be a different one. But our true identity is not the wounded healer in its rawest form or in its most unhealed form. I think the wounded healer, just like the Enneagram or the archetypes, you can express it in shadow form or in the empowered form.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of the biggest teachers that we know are wounded healers.
Yeah, I think
you look at Tony Robbins, you look at Dr. Joe, they've healed themselves, you know.
Yeah, I'm the wounded healer as well. I have
but we don't identify with the wounded healer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
When we started our journey, we thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then we decided where we're going to be healers, we're going to be training, and then we had no clue where it was going to lead. And then suddenly we felt, wow, actually I know a lot about this stuff. It's actually my passion. I can actually help people with it. Yeah. And then you identify with the wounded healer. You just identify with, actually I'm a healer, but not so much with the wound.
Yeah, because if you didn't have the wound, you wouldn't have become a healer in the first place, because you have no interest. The wound forces you to seek healing. Absolutely.
Yeah. The classes are in the evening, Tuesday night. It starts at Tuesday night. What time was it again, Daniel? Was
8 p.m. UK, 9 p.m. CET. 8
p.m. UK, 9 p.m. CET. So Alan, you've been on the wealth clearing classes. I mean, you know, and you've done individual sessions as well. What would you recommend to people? I definitely would recommend the group clearings, because it's very, like, financially, it's very cost effective. And then of course, if you have another thing going on, you know, you can always go to Daniel individually. What do you feel,
I would say
Alan?
definitely do a group session first, because then you do all the clearings that you have to do otherwise anyway. And they do it all together. And you also have the time to sort of go through everything and become acquainted with it. And also because different people are being cleared separately sometimes, then you can sort of also learn from them, and then also go deeper in aspects that you maybe never even have considered. So I think you could even go deeper with a group, but then follow it up by doing individual sessions if you're like, oh, now I know where my area is where I need some more attention, and then do a couple more sessions, and then I feel like that together is a really strong way to go about it. So I would definitely recommend doing the group first. It's also so cheap.
But did you do agree with me, Ellen, that, you know, you would not have known the beliefs that were there, because consciously we know it all, but subconsciously our body's like, no.
Yeah, especially the ancestral ones and
Yeah.
those levels. Yeah, no, not at all. I'm like, really? That doesn't sound like me, but it's still there. Yeah, I'm like, I don't believe that.
Yeah, so I saw the question, Nadine said she won't be on the course, but she listened to the replay. You will still get the benefit from the replay. And also because you can test yourself anyway, you can, because when I do the belief claim will happen through the recording anyway, because we go beyond space, time and dimension. So then if you're listening to replay, I recommend being on it because it's just easier, but then you can always test yourself afterwards. So if it hasn't cleared, then you can just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I just want to say, you know, this is, I just want to say about the people that are doing the work, or even that I've been doing the work, and people like, you know, like the mastermind people that I've been with, or Ellen, you know, we know it all. But to catch yourself in the victim saboteur or the saboteur archetype, to catch those archetypes alive in your life, it is very humbling, and it's like a wake-up call. And you know, and the reason why we called our last interview from victim to victor, you know, preparing yourself for post lockdown, we are going through extreme times, you know, and there's so much happening right now that is forcing us to really to grow up. And so I think, you know, but if you don't even know, if you do not even recognize the victim or saboteur running in your life, it is a very tough one to acknowledge, and a very tough one, I think, to grow out of, because definitely when I was in it, and I'm really getting out of it now, because right now, because I set this really strong intention, I'm going to heal this, also because Ellen and I keep getting these victor synchronicities, right? I mean, that was so clear to me. I keep getting victory synchronicities that I thought, you know, this is my path, and you're here because you have the victor archetype already in you. And so the thing is like, Theta healing, I think, is a very easy way to access these beliefs and these blocks, and to download the corresponding true beliefs that we should embody. Because a lot of beliefs that we have, they're just not real. They don't have anything to do with truth or with spiritual truth, right? A lot of beliefs that we have are just pendulums. They're coming from human made up laws. They have nothing to do with reality. That's what you start to acknowledge. Once you start going through the belief systems, you think, oh, but this is what my parents always told me. Oh, but this is what I always believed. And I thought it was true. But, you know, when you go through them, they're like all limiting beliefs, all of them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just want to add to the victim and saboteur. So really, if you're living with the victim on a day-by-day basis, well, ultimately, the journey of the victim is to have you increase your self-esteem over time. And you'll feel great every time you improve your self-esteem on a daily, weekly basis. You feel better.
Much better. Because I can tell you, to live in the victim and not to have self-esteem, the way that I feel it feels like other people are hurting me. Literally, I feel I live in an illusion or in some kind of nightmare that other people are doing things to me, and that is so painful. And intellectually knowing it, but feeling that people are hurting you, that is so much pain. Like feeling that people abandon you, feeling that people reject you, feeling that people don't love you, or they are hurting you. I mean, I can tell you a lot about it, and that's why I can teach about it, because I'm living it, because I've been living it for years. And when I woke up from it, I saw what I was doing, but my body was still in it, and I really needed a lot of energy work to get out of that identification. It took me several weeks, you know. Recording again? Yeah. So to get out of the trance, it's really hard work if you don't have energy healing work, I can tell you, because it's not something intellectual. This is beyond intellect, really beyond intellect. And the only way you know it is like when you've done energy clearing work, and it doesn't have to be theta healing, can be any other energy healing work, you will feel the shift. What I love about theta healing, for, you know, Somebody's asking how is theta healing different from emotion code? What I know from emotion code is amazing, and definitely you can teach yourself emotion code. But theta healing is different because theta healing really we can download the beliefs, and I'm not sure you can download beliefs with emotion code. Emotion code has the body code as well, which is very different again.
I do both. So emotion code is trapped emotions, and theta healing is limiting beliefs. So they're different, and it may be so this is what I found. Sometimes the underlying reason why you have a trapped emotion is because of a limiting belief. So the limiting belief causes you to have that trapped emotion. So you can release a trapped emotion, and that can become trapped again because that limiting belief is still funneling that energy to trap that emotion. So they are different, but emotion code will do one thing, but it won't cure the limiting belief.
Somebody also asked, can an archetype evolve into another one? I think an archetype can evolve into the more empowered version. So victim to victor, or the king, when you study the king archetype, if you are not empowered as a king, you can be like a baby tyrant king. Yeah, some of the leaders in the world are tyrants. They're not kings. We cannot even call them kings, and so, but definitely if we look at more like all the different archetypes that are at our disposal, I think it's really true that when you are still stuck in a victim and saboteur, you might have very powerful magician, entrepreneur, lover, I don't know what type of amazing gifts you have, but because you're stuck in victim and saboteur, you cannot even identify with them because your body is in an illusion. Your body is trapped in all these victim and saboteur type of energies. And they're very, very disempowering. They're very life-wrecking, I can tell you, because I've been living them. And you can look back into your relationships or your work life or your family life, and you think, wow, I was responsible. I was not awake enough. The thing is, have compassion with yourself. We live in extraordinary times. We live in times where all of us have to wake up. So yeah, somebody's asking, the damsel in distress, if she's empowered. Well, the damsel in distress is definitely not empowered.
Oh, but that's the damsel archetype. The role is to become empowered. So obviously the damsel is beautiful because people want to rescue her, but if she's relying on being rescued, her job really is understand she has the power to rescue herself. So that's the role of the damsel. And when she's empowered, then she realizes the power she has to capture hearts, but she's not relying on using that. She expresses it in a different way.
I would say really, I don't know, Ellen, you're a woman as well, the damsel in distress. I think that's a really false belief in the collective, that there's anybody out there wanting to heal and wanting to rescue you. But what I do see in the relationship dynamic where there's a savior and somebody, the people that want to save, people that really need healing, those relationships never ever work out. So if you're going to get a lot of significance and a lot of love and connection by being the damsel in distress, guess what? You're going to be very disappointed in the results because you're always losing your power. It's always about somebody else having to do this, having to show you that you are worthy of being saving. And then you have to keep up the dynamic of being saved. And, and the people who are in the other equation that want to heal people, that want to fix people, they're very much attracted to these type of people that need to be healed, but they're really in a toxic codependent dynamic. And it's very disempowering, right?
But now we know that it's only there to show us that what we need to heal. So now we can see it as like, oh no, I'm the damsel in distress, what do? I always attract these men because I feel like I need to be saved, or other way around. But now we know that, oh, it's showing me that I can actually take my power I can be empowered. So now we can see it as a stronger thing rather than, a bad thing.
Or our identity. We don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the most important thing is that you can see patterns in your life and not identify with it anymore, because this is really the thing about these these unhealed or these archetypes expressed on a lower level of consciousness. They are really a journey that we have to make, and the cycle of repeated stuff coming up over and over again in your relationships, or in your money, or in your whatever's going on in your life, it's actually a sign for you that you are not working on a specific archetypal expression. So Somebody's asking, do you need both theta healing to first eliminate belief and then the emotion body code to remove the trapped emotion that are still there? Or does theta healing remove it all at once?
With theta healing, you can just release the limiting belief and then just clear away the trauma that's associated with that belief. So that, actually I haven't tried, usually I use both. So I haven't really, it's either or actually, it doesn't matter. There's been times where I've released the trapped emotion and then I realized there's a belief that causes that trapped emotion, I've released the belief. But if I find the limiting belief first, then I'll just release all the trauma related to that belief. So yeah, I think the emotion code has its uses, but then you get to a point where you've released all of the trapped emotions in your body and there's nothing to release essentially. You know, I haven't done the body code, so there's more there, but this is my understanding of the emotion code.
So, Ellen, what did you get out of today?
Yeah, more clarity around the victim and the saboteur. I really liked hearing about the different energy centers. Makes so much sense. Feels like it's like deconstructed in a way and easier to grasp where there might be a victim and saboteur in my life, and I hope for others as well. Yeah, that's what I mainly got today. I always love hearing about the victim and saboteur, and I just again love hearing how it is empowering, because there's no use in learning about these things if we can't do anything about it. And
we are victors.
We are victors.
We are victors, you know.
And it's also we're always victors in some areas, and always learning about the victim, and we're being shown the victim in some areas of our lives in order to transmute it to the victor. So there's always going to be this beautiful dance. So there's also empowerment in that. We're never the victim, actually. We're just being shown where we can be more empowered to be the victor. So it's just beautiful. I love it.
I think the most important thing to remember is, even though you are going, you know, maybe this was quite confronting and it's a little bit like a wake-up call to listen to something like this, know that you can clear it. You know, we live in very exciting times, you know, because definitely, Daniel, what do you believe, what do you think about talk therapy? I've done talk therapy for many years.
It takes forever.
And it doesn't clear things. You just basically, you don't really transform in a way. You just have insights and you spend a lot of money.
It's funny because I trained as a coach, which is not talk therapy, but it's a lot of talking. And I'm too impatient. I'm just like, oh, let's just clear this. Let's not talk.
Why do we need to talk about something that's not even true?
Yeah.
I'm a victim. I was so victimized by all these people. Like, wait, okay, let's clear this for once and for all. You're going to look at it differently. You're going to say, wow, these people are my teachers, or these people were coming to show me what was active in me, you know, or yeah, it's a very different level of dealing with the things that really can yeah, they actually really diminish the joy we can have in life. That's all I can say. Yeah. I think you could even write a book about this at one point, Daniel.
Yeah, I have quite a few books.
Yeah, you're already writing a book about the archetypes, right? You're already channeling one. Yeah, that was your lockdown creativity.
Yeah.
So,
I need to go, everyone. My daughter's been very patient, but I need to take her outside.
Thank you, Ellen. Recap, Daniel. We're going to link. Can we put in the link for your course again?
Yeah. I'll just do it.
Yes. So it starts on Tuesday night.
This Tuesday
for 4 weeks, and it's 1.5 hours. You don't have to be there. If you're in a group, you know, Daniel will help clear blocks for you as a collective, and then download the right, you know, beliefs that are right for us, the creator's understanding of the right belief for us as a collective. So.
Yeah, so I forgot to say also what I will actually channel the archetype of the victim and the saboteur to see, to help distinguish any other beliefs that need to come up as well.
During the class, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll usually work. So what I did in my wealth claim, which I'll do, is I'll tune into someone. So if I get a volunteer, I'll tune into their victim or saboteur and just find out what. I won't be able to do that with everyone, but I'll we'll work it out such that we will pick up the common beliefs. But I'll tune into someone and I'll read their victim and saboteur, and then that will give me the beliefs to clear, essentially.
What Abraham Hicks always says is, like, when you're standing in front of an audience, you will always pick the person that represents the issues for everybody. It's the same when I do my constellations workshops. I always let the field determine who is the issue holder, because, you know, the field will always find the right person that represents the issues of the whole. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you, Daniel, for spending your time with us. A lot of the people here are our players. I'm just looking, and we also have some guests that were players and people who are attending our 7 a.m. meditations. I look forward to having you in the class or having you in another setting. Tonight, we're actually interviewing my relationship coach. He's a beautiful man called Dave Elliott. I really would recommend you to watch it, because there's so much, the more we learn, the more we know that we actually don't know anything. It's very humbling. So I hope to see you at 9 p.m. CET time. I want to thank you again, Daniel. I'm so glad I know you as a friend. I know you as a mastermind buddy, somebody I trust, somebody who has saved my ass many times when I was down and really in horrible, you know, heartache. You were there for me. And Daniel is always very compassionate, very objective, but still like, stop it, Angelique. That's your victim talking. Oh, that's my victim talking. You know, so really, you don't want the victim to run your life. Really, the victim is crying out to be saved. Yeah. So save your victim, save your saboteur. There's so much time now to live our best life. So I want to thank you, Daniel, for being you. For doing this, like, you do it so automatically, it just comes through you. This is so your talent. And yeah, we'll think about what other interviews we can arrange with you. We definitely have so many topics you can go into. All the sexy topics, love, wealth, maybe even like attraction, seduction, or whatever, you know. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Lots of love to you all. Have a beautiful Sunday. Bye. Bye. Bye.